Oh, can I just remind everybody, try to speak up? Vonda said that the sound is really hard to hear in the recording, so. And I was listening to it.
Okay, thank you. So I'll call the meeting to order, and first item on the agenda is the approval of the June 23rd, 2022 board meeting agenda. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Robin, seconded by Hannah. Is there any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. And the motion passes. So the next item on the agenda is public discussion. Are there any members of the public here?
Introduction of our new member.
It's not on the agenda, Rob.
You should have proposed a change. Okay. I didn't propose it in time.
I think everyone knows that John Rayburn is joining us. John, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Well, yes, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm a great user of the library, and now I'm going to find out how it works. So I'm looking forward to it. My background is an academic at the university. I taught, and now I'm retired, and that's a delightful way to find yourself in more ways than one.
And shall we go around the table?
I'm Hannah Schultz. I am just finishing up my third year on the board, so halfway through. And I'm currently on the bylaws committee, and I've been on the Friends Foundation board for the last couple of years as well.
I'm Robin Petzold, and I'm not sure what number year this is. I think it's my 11th or 12th year. That I've been on the board, and I've been on a lot of different committees, but I'm on the bylaws committee right now, and I think that's the only one.
Ellsworth Carmen, library director. Had the pleasure of meeting John for orientation earlier this week. Nice to see you.
And I'm Tom Rodman.
I'm Claire Matthews. I've been on the board since December. I'm not on any committees at the moment. But welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm Dan Stevenson. I've been on the board for a year now, and I am now, or starting next month, will be on the Friends Foundation board as well.
And we
And I'm DJ Jonk. I'm on my third year, just like Hannah, and I'm our secretary, and I'm also on the Friends Foundation.
And where are you?
I am on Keokuk Street, over on the little dog on the road.
so much better in the photos.
Looks like Iowa.
Well, this is a picture I took in Colorado. It's this is a view from Mount Cameron on the Mosquito Range in Colorado.
Was Noah going to remote it or not? Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Are there members of the public who want to address the board? Seeing none, on to item 4A, the FY23 Nobu budget. After 11 years, does it start to make sense, Robin?
Yeah, I know balloons.
Would you like to guide us elsewhere?
I'll do my best. Patty sometimes jumps in and helps clarify too. Every year we essentially create two different budget requests. One is the operating budget. That's our 6 million something request with the city. And that is designed to cover operational costs, most staffing, most programming, building maintenance, things like that. We do that. We start the process in October, and sort of it keeps going through the spring. And we do that for the next coming fiscal year. At the beginning of each fiscal year, we have the privilege of making a NOBU request, which is a budget request for the year that's about to start. So it starts July 1, looking at unrestricted gift money and state funding. So these are board controlled funds that are either Some of them can be, unlike the operating budget, if they're unused, they can roll over just into and have a balance. That would be the unrestricted gifts. The state funding is designed to be spent in the year that is open. We sort of push them together into a large budget that we call NOBU, the non-operating budget. So just the very basic way we kind of do the math to figure out what our NOBU request will be at or under every year is we take the unrestricted gift amount, which in the context statement there you saw was the 117.5. And then we add in last year's Enrich Iowa and open access numbers. We don't yet know the coming year's numbers. Unfortunately, those numbers are trending down, which is why you'll notice that the NOBU total request this year is lower than the year before. Because there is a balance for the NOBU budget in its entirety, in theory, if there was a year that both the leadership team and the library board agreed, that made sense to kind of go over that annual total of the unrestricted gift plus the state aid, that could be done because we could tap into the balance. Again, that's board controlled. I have not had a year that I thought it was necessary to do that yet. Since I've been here, I think that we could hold that option until it really is needed. This year, we did notice sort of a little bit of a pinch in the NOBU funding with that reduction in the state funding. And additionally, we're seeing some of the ongoing annual expenses increase. So if you took a look at this, you'll notice it's kind of split. We have ongoing things that we pay for every year. That includes some two parts of commission. Those go up every year because benefits, costs, and salaries. We also make an annual contribution to the book festival. There's some collective support that comes out of this, and we did increase that this year. And just some other things like that. Then we have a second part, which is significantly smaller, that is sort of one-off, maybe strategic initiative, project-related costs. And those really could range, that could be almost anything. We try again not to spend the money on things that that we believe should come out of that operating budget. Sometimes there's a gray area, and it's great to have conversations about those when they come up. But like I say every year, I think that the NOBU having access to these funds allows us to be nimble. It allows us to do things that we didn't know we needed or wanted to do when we were finalizing the operational budget. I think that in a lot of ways, this is one of the things that allows us to sort of maintain our reputation as a responsive community library. So even in years that we feel kind of like, oh, we had a couple more things we would have put in if we could have, this is a huge benefit to the community, and we're extremely thankful to have those resources. I tried to sort of give brief summaries of what each piece of the request was for, but I'm more than happy to walk through anything that stuck out to folks. I did make an error on the final line. This is the fiscal year 23 budget request, not 22. So obviously we're using last year's but it does. I mean, I think it does take a couple of years of exposure for it for the rhythm to kind of fall together of operating budget and NOBU and how they do or don't interplay.
I was just looking at your, for strategic or project related, there's the saga of the stair, the tripping stair. Is that part of, is there a resolution on that? Or is it coming out of this kind of a budget?
That is being handled by a budget amendment that the city was handling.
Nice, okay.
So that actually didn't, I wasn't even asked to be part of that conversation. It just came through as an amendment at the council. And
Very good.
They just, I think it was sort of wrapped up in the finalization of the whole pet ball project, because there were a few other things that were still being tweaked.
Sure.
But that's a great question. That is the kind of thing that we'd want to talk about. At that scope of cost, would we maybe partially fund with Nobu or talk about, could we parcel out, maybe we cover the railing and they cover the
Mhm.
labor. But fortunately, that one was able to be folded into the city's budget.
Which really is very reasonable because it's not our scale.
It's not ours.
Absolutely.
We're not responsible.
Absolutely.
Mhm, right.
No, it made perfect sense. But I was still pleased to see that we didn't have to argue.
Yeah.
What are pass-through funds? That's a term I didn't know. It undesignated pass-through fund gifts.
So Patty, correct me if I'm wrong, but pass-through are gifts that come in and can be used right away. So they don't have a spot that they have to go first. So it's a resource that's available right as it
They're
comes.
not designated for something.
Yeah.
So they're totally unrestricted.
And are there strings to the Iowa state support?
Yes.
And what are they?
So a big part of it is what level of accreditation you have. This library has the highest level of accreditation. That's tied to everything from hours open to number of staff with advanced degrees, what kinds of programming you have, how big is your collection. It sort of is a holistic snapshot of your services. We also do Enrich Iowa, which I'm less able to explain. Does anybody feel like they have a good blurb for how that's calculated?
It's not, but.
It's not really a mystery, but I don't know what the formula is that they use. They take into account your population served and at some way your level of service. But I think it's mostly based on population served. And you have to meet a few sort of benchmarks that we will always probably meet. And that's one of the benefits of being a larger, well-funded library is that we don't have to worry about losing those accreditation standards. We just actually starting July 1 will be a new accreditation cycle for us. We just reapplied this year and we're again awarded that. So it's a 3-year cycle. And in addition to that, just because we're on the topic, it's not immediately tied to, but we also have to do continuing education credits as a staff, and we have to maintain our library certifications and things like that. So it all sort of folds together into making sure we keep that top funding.
So it's roughly what is the balance? Holding in reserve there.
I don't know what's going on, but I can get that.
Okay.
And we're working on kind of recrafting the way that that balance is documented from year to year. Because Noble has been around for a long time and it's sort of passed through multiple administrative staffs, systems and hands. Now that Jen's here, we're trying to sort of pull multiple databases, multiple files, all into one authoritative place for that. That's great timing because there's new finance staff at the city as well.
Mhm.
So we had a productive meeting with the new director and assistant director of finance talking about, we maintaining that absolute board control, but also having it reflected appropriately in our overall finance systems. And there's not pressure to approve this meeting if people have any reason to wait. It wouldn't be unusual at all for it to come back in July. We used to bring it in July until someone sort of asked, why are we approving this a month into the fiscal year that it's supposed to start? So if people do have questions or want to spend more time with it, it could be revisited if needed.
I don't, this is just a comment that I don't think there's really a resolution, but the distinction between ongoing or annual expenses and project related is kind of a little funny in that, like, so there was a decision at some point that we should spend $5,000 on programming out of this budget every year. But that's flexible, right?
Mhm.
That could be changed. And then down below, we say, well, and this year we're going to spend 6,500 more.
Yeah,
Again, I haven't figured out how to fix it, so I just comment that it's a little bit funny.
it is funny, and I would say if we do want to address that, we'll want to sort of have that conversation before October, because what happens is when we're making our operational asks, this is part of that conversation, so
Makes sense.
we'll, but like you said, it's completely flexible. I mean, we made this up, we can change it however. The sort of the hardest to touch would be those salary support lines. And I would also say the collection support, because those are so built into how those models are built. It would just take a lot to change that. Although I do plan in next year's budget meetings to really start to lay that groundwork to transition at least one of those salary contributions into operational. I don't think they were designed to be available forever, but once they're there, it's very convenient for everybody to let it go. So I don't think that change will happen in the next 2 or 3 years, but I think starting to have the conversation will put us in a good position when we get more sort of truly out of the COVID impact.
Tom, are you concerned about the label or about the actual expenditure lines?
The label, just
Just,
the way of organizing.
couldn't we just change the verbiage if we found something better right now? I mean, it's,
Well,
It's just a
we can
title.
mess with it on next year's. It's okay. We
But I think-
understand it.
I mean, if it's just even ongoing does make it look like we're sustaining it. And I don't know if that's the impression we want to give. If if there's something else.
You could just call it continuing. If you're continuing from last year.
Sustained. Or. But I think the word annual maybe is the
Because that's,
one that,
it makes it sound like we're gonna do it every year forever.
right, we built it in, even out,
And we sort of are.
maybe it's continued rather than ongoing or.
Yeah.
Repeated expenses.
Yeah, given all the options, I'd be comfortable doing that in next year. So.
I just think the word annual though does make it look like it's sustained.
Yeah.
I just want to throw in a quick comment. We wouldn't have these funds if the development office and the Friends weren't supporting us. And I just think we need to acknowledge the work that they all put into this because it doesn't just come from nowhere, but really, and seriously, the Friends don't, the whole Friends Committee they're not here, but they're acknowledged that those programs wouldn't go on without a lot of their work.
Yes, thank you, Robin.
No, and that's what I talk about.
Makes us different.
The reputation of the library. I think this really does.
Right.
I mean, so often the things that people will say, I remember 10 years ago coming to that as a child. If you look back at that, those are double expenses.
And it's the community too, so it's those that organize, but the community donors are the ones that really are paying for those programs by choice.
Yes. No, it's a huge benefit, and I really don't know many other libraries that
Right.
have a chance at this level to say, this is what we'd like to do with these dollars.
Right.
Is there other discussion? This is something we can approve at this meeting if someone wants to move that we do that.
I move that we approve the Nobu request as printed here.
Second.
Okay, moved by Rob, seconded by Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And we,
Right.
I was in favor for the record. I held up my hand a little bit longer. I wanted to make sure that was clear.
So we move on to staff reports, starting with the director's report.
Yeah, kind of a light report this month. I feel like it was busy, but when it got down to it, what ready to share, kind of basic. We the orientation for with John. We've done some orientation for Friends Foundation folks, sort of making plans for what the rest of the summer is gonna look like. But nobody has questions.
Any questions or comments on this report?
I do want to just briefly check in about that paragraph about the strategic planning with the state library.
Yes.
I had some sort of assumptions that were not correct about the support that the state library could offer for strategic planning. I thought that really they were maybe only work with small libraries and were only sort of at that level of basic reporting. But it was suggested that we kind of look at it, and I had a meeting with our regional rep from the state library, and then we brought her in via Zoom for a leadership team meeting, kind of talk through what could that support look like. And I think all of us were pretty impressed by the breadth of resources and also the flexibility that they're really willing to sort of come in and assist with the parts that you'd like assistance with, but step back for the parts that you don't, willing to work with you if you choose to have a separate, if you want to hire a different person to do a different piece of it. It felt really practical, and I'm kind of excited about trying it. I think that I really believe our current plan has served us very well. And I think that we were really lucky to get to write a plan right as COVID was starting. But there is a real interest on the staff side of returning to a traditional, really library service focused plan. And I think we're there. I think that we can move away from a lot of the recovery language back into a more traditional plan. And I think that the state library is pretty well suited for that. If we were looking at 3 years of hyper innovation or even a large scale capital project, I think I'd feel differently. But it just feels like this could be the right time to try that service and see how we feel. Again, I think staff want to be really involved. I think that they want to feel like they're part of the process. And our representative was really open to what that could look like in different places. And there's financial benefit as well. It's a no cost consultant, and that would allow us to put resources into the parts of the plan that we felt deserved those the most.
Great. Yep. Okay, let's see here. We have a children's services report.
And I have an edited version.
Updated version too, which is amazing. For
New numbers on the kids, some other detail.
we are full steam ahead. It is very, very busy.
The summer.
Sure sounded like it.
Yeah. I, could not imagine that we would be back to this level. But just today we had, there's another program that starts here in a little bit. For one of our night programs, but today already we've had just under 500 kids participate in the one-man band and tween programs today. So wow. Just yeah. In the teen room, it's not under me or Jason, but I can tell that those are full. We had a whole group that couldn't do the gaming because there wasn't enough computers and kids were already huddled around, so they came down and used the kids' computers this afternoon. So I know the teen room is there too, and just updating in just a week, it's right under 2,400 babies through adults that are signed up for summer reading. So that's phenomenal. Like I love what we did in 2 years.
Right.
Right now going on. So
Stefan's question. Before COVID, we had a problem with restless teens in the building. And inappropriate behavior. How is it looking this year?
It's really good. We have Victoria has 2 sessions a day. So she's like sort of hitting her wall now. She's an ambitious one. So she has a morning session and then an afternoon session.
Wow.
And then there's free gaming play during the day as well as.
So we don't have the roving, kind of daring.
Yeah, there's kind of always something going on in there. So it's like, if you're not here.
They're
for this,
distracted and
then-
busy. Yeah.
Then you're out of the room.
Keep them busy.
That's what we're doing.
And it's so busy
Yeah.
with with that program, so.
And actually there's a.
Great solution.
Yeah.
That's a great solution though.
And she put in a lot of work to get to this point. With like recruiting volunteers and just pushing lots into the space. So it's really been great to see the response, like when the teams were set up
Wow,
every time.
great.
To be like, oh, okay, yeah, we will do this. And parents are just like dropping them off at the door and then bye, I'll see you. Or,
Oh, so something's really changed. This is great.
yeah, really good.
She has built a new
Wow,
service.
that's being acknowledged. Yeah.
And if we ever have a live agenda and people would like a presentation from her, the teen librarian Victoria is exceptional. Really came in at a tough time and
Yeah.
embraced the challenge. And is just super positive about it. It's really.
It'd be good to hear.
Community connections, so like,
Right.
for example, PS1 was here to talk about art in your community.
Yeah.
So it's like a bridge of like, this group also exists and grannies were here, grannies talking about environmental justice.
I think it'd be good to hear her give a report because we always hear when something's gone wrong. And when we have to intervene, and we don't really hear when it's completely turned around and it's so positive.
And just see how we can help.
It doesn't be next meeting, but at some point, it'd be nice to hear what happened that this is like 180-degree turnaround from people that were disruptive to really participating.
And she has limited resource. I mean, she's one full-time
Wow.
person with 2 interns, but she also manages a full desk responsibility. And has other librarian duties. So I think we're all impressed with work done and just modeling a very casual but effective relationship building with teams and knows everybody's names and is just able to very organically de-escalate. I really can't say enough positive about the work she's doing.
All right, anything else?
I just have one last thing for Angie about the cardboard painting at the Arts Fest. So since that happened, every box that has come to our house has been set up in our front room. And we've got an activity planned this weekend where we're going to have our own version of it. And I am holding the children's librarians responsible.
That is the middle picture there. That's Paul's big thing every year when he starts saving boxes for I don't know how long. I think Ellsworth, his kids had the same kind of response and Ellsworth has had many talks with Paul about recreating it, which, you know, if the carpet situation ever, you know, gets closer, yeah, we're just gonna let the kids come in and paint on the carpet before it's perfect.
It's just some cardboard and a tarp if you need it. It's just, thank you so much. I had to drag my kids away. I had to be a little bit of a tough dad dragging them away from it in all frankness, but thank
It
you.
was a very happy day. We
Yeah.
had a lot of happy days, so
Loved it.
thank you.
Okay, our next report is from the Collection Services Department. And thank you for telling us about the work Matt and Natalie do.
Yes, they've been very busy. So we have lots of people in the building, but we're also in a full summer publishing season. So lots of new books are coming out, lots of great titles that were pushed back because of the pandemic. Natalie and Matt have been working really hard to get those out as fast as possible.
Any questions for Ann?
I didn't notice under the adventure pass, like you talk about it, just random in the article about it. I know that wasn't our article about it, but it was saying that we owe less than $10 in fines because we haven't waived fines. I don't know. That was like, I thought we haven't announced that or it hasn't
That,
I was confused.
yeah, the Little Village wrote that article. We didn't talk to them at all about fines or fees when we did discuss
Okay.
it with them, so I don't know where.
No idea where Little
Yeah.
Village is getting this information.
But yeah, we haven't fully announced or we're working on talking to patrons about establishing that no fines policy, but fees does apply, like, so if you don't bring back. a book,
Right. I mean, I think,
they'll-
not that I have question about it. I think that's totally a fair
But yeah.
policy that as long as you owe less than $10, then you get it passed. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
totally acceptable and fair, so, and reasonable. But I was just wondering where that came from and if it was just their information or if it
I think
was,
it was there.
I think it's theirs.
they just made that up.
It'll be the same, it is the same thing. If they have damaged a book at Cedar Rapids, the whole program is actually done through the Grimes Public Library, and these are their rules. So we
Sure.
can't even say
We do tell them what the rules are.
with that, they,
So, I mean,
Yeah,
we
so-
tell them what the rules are, they,
And then they code it.
the codes, a card could stand.
yeah.
So yeah, Cedar Rapids would have the same issue as us, it's just the terminology.
Okay, I assumed that was true. I was just a little confused, but I assumed it was also just the wording of whoever wrote this article.
I know it's early days, but has something emerged as the most popular?
I believe blank Parks too.
It's also interesting, the city did a video promo for it, and they put in. So again, because it's done through all Iowa libraries, you can choose which ones you want to subscribe to. And a couple that they showed in the video aren't ones that we're subscribed to, because they're not on our side of the state, or ones that we didn't think. Yeah, so I was
I assume that it's been really popular. Is there a limit on how many passes you guys have
yeah.
that you can give away? Okay.
So we bought, so for example, blank Parks, we bought 2 passes. So 2 are available
Each day.
each day, but there are some odd rules that if someone checks it out on Monday, maybe it'll block it out for Wednesday and Thursday. So they don't, you're only allowed to use it twice a week or something.
Right.
I see.
I can remember. There was a similar program when I was in the Chicago area or the Chicago parks, and I remember it being kind of, like there's always a waiting list first or something like that. And it was similar like that. You'd get it one day and then it would be blocked for another day.
Well, it's a great thing. It's getting a lot of action on my Facebook page where I shared it, and just a reminder to board members, that's one of the things we can do is share information about the library with the community, however we do that. So, yeah, thank you. Anything else for Ann? Right, the IT department has a report. Brent prepared. Anything to add to it?
I don't think so.
Any questions for Brent? Love the hearing loop. Very excited about that.
Yeah, that was really nice to see the hearing loop, and also JAWS just get called out with that. That's wonderful. Increasing accessibility is huge.
Can I ask about a department that doesn't have a report this month? This is the
Sure.
right moment.
Sure, this would be great.
I just want to ask about facilities. With the extreme heat that we've had in the past, it's changed some of our patterns of how the building's used, especially for cooling needs for people who are homeless around the streets, or the stress on some of our equipment. How are we doing? How's it affecting us?
I think that the changes that were made over the past experiences have really helped us be better prepared. We haven't had any outages.
Okay, so no outages. Have we had to change? Sometimes we've had people who've had to be here all day and perhaps aren't really using the services in the way the mission says,
I mean, we have people who are here all day,
but no problems.
but not problematic. I would say that we've had a little bit of an increase in people laying down.
Right, that's what you get
in the meeting
sleeping
room
in the
hallway.
heat.
But I think that we've sort of made an effort to walk through more often, remind people to be sitting up and on furniture. And I wouldn't say it's been a lingering problem. I think that Angie's staff, when they're preparing for a program, they make a point to have a presence in that area and have it be active and if there is any issue to rouse the person, but not anything significant.
You're not getting nesting or anything that we used to get.
I wouldn't say that we're
Okay.
having an increase in that.
Okay.
Outside, I would say we've seen an increase in people who are sitting.
I was saying, are they going
outside.
somewhere else or for cooling on the really bad days or?
Well, I think that I call it a vestibule, but that space with the overhang and the bike racks by the book return.
Yes, there's a lot of people that write. There's
I
people that
think that just
consistently.
the nature of that space keeps it a little protected and a little cooler and warmer.
Have we had increased urination there because of?
No, I would say we're back to sort of, there are people using it overnight, but not in a particularly problematic.
Okay,
way.
great.
I mean,
Good to
we
know.
do
Good to
think
hear.
sometimes about some of those are fire doors.
Right.
We've also had at least one case where somebody opened the door from the inside and someone was immediately outside of it. There was no injury or anything, but it was.
Right, it's vulnerable.
It did sort of make us think, if somebody had really railed against it, not knowing there was somebody leaving it, that we have a problem, but I would say it's on par with other years. But again, I know that Brad's made some adjustments to like the heating and cooling curtains by the doors and things, just
Right.
as the temperature has gone up. And right now, it seems like all of that's working with design.
Great.
We did have a small heat related problem with the roof membrane on the sort of balconies over Lynn Street.
Right, right, right.
Somebody noticed when they were doing work that there was some separation, but he had them inspect the big roof and it wasn't up there, so we just did patch repair.
So it's kind of normal maintenance.
Because of
Yeah.
the combination of the heat and then some of the heavy rainstorms, I started to pull away, but Brad and his team are pretty in tune. I think every year it kind of gets a little bit finer tuned to what we need for the weather. I do know that in the coming years, we'll have some sort of replacement issues with some of the bigger equipment, but that's in the schedule.
Right, that's right.
And
That was
assuming
it,
that
right.
there's availability, it shouldn't be very problematic.
My concern was usage sort of changes or,
No, I wouldn't say it's
Okay.
problematic, but
super, that's great news.
it seems like our incident reports haven't gone up.
It's been really good considering how hot it's been.
Yeah, right.
We stay alone.
For a couple of hot weeks.
Space.
I'm curious, because as the city progresses, they're rethinking the Robert E. Lee building with the swimming pool, so that might be, it might change the dynamic here too. However, they reimagine that building. I know the swimming pool is, or
Contentious.
the swimming pool is at the end of its life.
Yeah.
And so however they rethink that may change how people are moving
Yeah.
between here and there. Because I remember seeing always the kind
Yeah,
of,
it just seems on really, really hot periods,
right.
it would cause the building to be used a little differently, just so people cool off a little. And sometimes it's consistent with services and sometimes it's obstructive.
One thing that I think made a positive impact was not too long ago, computer sessions were extended. So it used to be that a user would need to have kind of a lot of staff interventions and stay on a machine. And now that has been really simplified down to you can have a 5-hour session essentially without talking to staff if there's nobody waiting the machines. And that gives people a station to be at,
Right.
a tool to be using.
Right, something to do.
And it can also be very passive. If they want to put on headphones and watch a YouTube video for 5 hours, that's fine. So I think that sometimes just those little barrier removal pieces have a huge impact.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a report from the development office. Kathy?
It is a very exciting time for the book and the development office. We worked very hard to get us back to most of our prior pandemic hours. So that'll be exciting. And the return of sidewalk sales. Well, hopefully it won't be 105 on the off. And hopefully we'll get a lemon boss stand right next to us. So, yeah, Bill's going to be putting those on the Penn Mall and the north side. So we'll have a great stream of traffic in a few weeks. We did have a great orientation, as Sophie mentioned yesterday, for some of the new foundation board members, and we're excited about them. The final person comes next week, so we'll repeat with her. And looking forward to closing 1 year, starting another year. Carry on.
Great. Any questions for Penny? And we have an entry for miscellaneous. Everybody want to talk about? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the president's report. Carol reports she has no report. We have an opportunity for announcements from members. See any of those? And the report from the Friends Foundation Board Committee. So who's got that?
You got it, Hannah?
I
It'll come through better if you're talking.
We had a meeting June 9th. That was the annual meeting, which is required by bylaws. The operating budget was approved of $377,000 based on donations this year, which, and Peggy's my mother-in-law. You are clearly not her. In Patty's words.
It's not my being that.
In Patty's words, it has been a very good year. Officers were also elected. They'll start July 1st. We had new board members approved also starting July 1st. Outgoing board members were recognized, and Patty announced her retirement effective August 19th of this year. Of 2029. Of this year.
Well, congratulations, Patty.
Thank you very, very much.
That's the end of my report.
Okay, any questions?
Do you want to say about bylaws committee? It's not listed on the agenda, but there was another committee.
Yeah, you guys doing anything?
We have met. We have some proposed changes that we'll present in July.
Great, thank you. The communications were included in the packet. Do I have any much to discuss about those? And we have the consent agenda contains the approval of the minutes and the approval of disbursements. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve.
A
I'll
second,
second.
and one second. All in favor? Aye. Guy, including the aye. And any opposed? Unopposed. Okay. Our last item is to set agenda for July. We got strategic planning update and reporting discussion. So do we approve the memorandum of agreement each year? So what's on there? Yeah. Between the ICPL Friends Foundation and ICPL.
Usually presented for information.
Okay. Okay.
But it is signed by the two presidents of the organization.
Okay.
You can vote if you want.
Carol will be chairing that meeting.
We'd have to say, you're not enough.
And then we'll have a couple of departmental reports and, as I said, we'll review bylaws. That sound okay to everyone? Then, having completed the agenda, get to declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, nice.
We're getting faster every
I
time.
know, we're being good.
Well, this was. Yeah.
I might not be here in August. That's actually true. I might not be here in August.